Somewhere in Salvador, Brazil, a washing machine is broken. This is not your problem. You are 3 years old. You do not own a washing machine. You do not even own shoes that match. But your neighbor is standing outside her apartment door, looking at the broken machine with the defeated expression of someone who has completely given up on life. And something inside your tiny brain says, "Fix it." You waddle over, you look at the machine, you open the back panel with a butter knife you found on the ground. You pull out a wire that looks wrong, you put it somewhere else. You press the button, the machine turns on. It also starts spinning so fast that it walks itself across the floor, crashes through the wall, and ends up in the hallway. Water is everywhere. Your neighbor is screaming. 3 other neighbors come out of their apartments to see what happened. You helped, technically. Welcome to Salvador. Welcome to your life. Welcome to the very specific kind of chaos that follows you everywhere you go, and somehow, against all reasonable odds, always ends up working out. You are born in one of the loudest, most colorful, most stubbornly alive cities on the planet. Salvador does not ask for your attention. It takes it. Music pours out of every window whether you want it to or not. The streets are painted in colors that have no business being that bright. Everything smells like street food and sea salt and something that is always, somewhere, slightly on fire. Most kids grow up wanting to fit in. You grow up wanting to understand how everything works so you can make it work better. Or louder. Usually both. Your mother calls this curiosity. Your teachers call it a disruption. Your neighbors call it several things that are not appropriate to repeat. Everyone is correct. By the time you are 5, you have taken apart every toy you own. Your uncle's radio, the family fan, a toaster that technically still worked before you got involved, and the lock on the front door which you then could not put back together, trapping your entire family inside the apartment for 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon. Your father sat on the floor next to you while you both stared at the pile of lock parts, and he said, very calmly, that you needed to learn how things go back together, not just how they come apart. You took that lesson very seriously. You got much better at putting things back together. The things you put back together just did not always work the same way they did before. They worked differently, usually more interestingly, occasionally more dangerously. You helped. Technically, school exists. School is fine. You like math because math is just patterns, and you see patterns everywhere. You like physics because physics explains why things move and break and explode the way they do. You do not always pay attention in other classes because you are drawing diagrams in the margins of your notebooks, not doodles, actual diagrams, measurements, angles, notes like needs more torque and try brass screws next time, and what if the pressure chamber was smaller, but the release valve was bigger. Your physics teacher notices the diagrams. She does not confiscate the notebook. She reads it. She comes back the next day and tells you that 2 of your designs would actually work, and 1 of them would definitely start a fire. You ask which one would start the fire. She tells you. You nod and write that down too. By the time you are 10, you have a reputation in the neighborhood. Not a bad one, a specific one. People know that if something is broken, they can bring it to the kid in apartment 7. You fix things. You always fix things. Sometimes you improve them beyond recognition and the person barely recognizes their own appliance when you hand it back, but it works, and it works better, and that is the point. You are 11 when you find the motor. Someone threw it out. It is from an industrial fan that was too old to repair. You carry it home on your back. It is almost as big as you are. Your mother watches you drag it through the front door and does not say anything for a long time. Then she says, "Dinner is at 7," and goes back to the kitchen. You spend 3 weeks on the motor. You take it completely apart. You figure out every single thing that is wrong with it. You fix those things. You put it back together. You turn it on. It works. It works so well that it creates a sustained wind current in your bedroom, strong enough to knock everything off your desk. Your homework flies out the window. Your lamp falls over. Your little sister, who was standing in the doorway watching, gets pushed back into the hallway by the air pressure. You helped, technically. You spend the next year figuring out what you can attach to the motor. The motor becomes a chassis. The chassis gets wheels. The wheels get a guidance system you build from salvaged electronics. The guidance system gets a trigger mechanism. The trigger mechanism gets a payload. You are 12 years old, and you have built a functional, remote-controlled explosive delivery device out of parts people threw in the trash. You test it in the empty lot behind the building at 2 in the morning. The explosion is small, more of a very committed pop, but it works exactly the way you calculated. You sit in the smoke and the silence with your notebook open on your knee, and you write down everything. What worked? What did not work? What would make it better? You fill the notebook. You buy another notebook. You fill that one too. The years between 12 and 17 are mostly a record of increasingly ambitious projects and increasingly creative explanations for the damage. You are not reckless. Reckless means not thinking. You are always thinking. You are thinking faster than most people can talk. Calculating outcomes before they happen, adjusting in real time when reality does not match the calculation. What looks like chaos from outside is a very specific kind of order on the inside. Your kind. At 15, you can build a functional launcher from hardware store parts in under 40 minutes. You know this because you timed yourself. Multiple times. You got it down to 37 minutes and were mildly annoyed it was not 35. At 17, you build the first real version of what will eventually become your boombot. At this stage, it is a wheeled metal box with an aggressive personality. It moves towards sounds. The targeting is inconsistent. The explosion is impressive. You spend 2 weeks on version 2. 3 weeks on version 3. By version 6, it is actively hunting the neighborhood cats with a level of enthusiasm that you find admirable, and the cats find absolutely unacceptable. The neighborhood cats file no formal complaints. You take that as approval. And then Kingdom shows up. You know the name. Everybody knows the name. Kingdom Corporation is the kind of company that is everywhere, which means it is the kind of company that is impossible to avoid, which means it is the kind of company that has decided your neighborhood is an asset to be acquired rather than a place where people actually live. They send notices first, polite ones, then less polite ones, then lawyers, then construction crews. Your lot goes first. The empty space behind the building where you tested things and filled notebooks and stayed up until 3 in the morning watching small explosions in the dark. One morning, there is a fence around it, a Kingdom logo on the sign, some extremely inoffensive landscaping that has never done anything interesting in its entire existence. Then the mural on the corner, then the market, then the sounds and the colors and the specific living quality of a neighborhood that took decades to become itself, gone in a few months of efficient corporate decision-making by people who have never walked those streets once. You stand at the fence one afternoon looking at the Kingdom logo and feel something go very still and very focused inside you. You have spent your whole life fixing things that were broken, but what Kingdom is doing is not broken. It is working exactly as intended, and that is a completely different problem that requires a completely different solution. You go home, you open a new notebook, you start writing. You are 19 when Viper finds you. She does not knock like a person who expects to be turned away. She stands at your door and waits, and the stillness of her is the kind that makes you immediately understand this is not a casual visit. She is precise in a way that feels chemical. Every word placed exactly where it needs to be. No decoration, no warmth. She explains the situation in the same tone you use when you are describing a mechanical problem. Radionite. Kingdom. A conflict that is bigger than one city, bigger than one country, bigger than a fence with a logo on it. She slides a folder across your workbench. You read it. You think about the lot, the mural, the market. You tell her yes before she finishes the sentence. The facility they take you to is aggressively organized. Everything has a place. Everything is labeled. It is the kind of tidiness that feels like a philosophy. You immediately start thinking about where you are going to put your tools. The man running the briefing is Brimstone. Wide, steady, the kind of person who has a contingency plan for his contingency plan. He looks at your bag of equipment with an expression that does not change, but somehow communicates a great deal. He gives you a full tactical breakdown of your first mission. Positions, timing, communication protocols, fallback routes. It is thorough. It is detailed. It is exactly the kind of plan that covers every variable, except the variables you are about to introduce. Jet is already there when you arrive, sitting on top of the equipment crate she definitely was not supposed to sit on, looking at everything in the room with the expression of someone who finds most things slightly beneath their attention but is willing to be surprised. She watches you unpack your bag of custom devices with what might be interest or might be mild concern. She does not say anything. She just hops off the crate and walks away, which you correctly interpret as a compliment. Sage arrives quietly. Everything about her is measured. She looks at your workbench full of half-assembled components and volatile-looking containers and smiles like she has made peace with much stranger things. She asks one question about your boombot. She listens to the entire answer without interrupting. You decide she is the most trustworthy person in the building. Phoenix comes in like he was specifically designed to enter rooms. He is loud in a way that has conviction behind it. He lights a flame in his palm to demonstrate something and grins at your expression. You are not going to tell him you found it cool. He already knows. Breach walks in and the room feels smaller. He is enormous. His right arm is not an arm. It is a mechanical apparatus with its own apparent attitude. He looks at your boombot, picks it up without asking, turns it over in his giant mechanical hand, and sets it back down. He says that is disgusting. He means it as the highest possible compliment. You know this immediately. The first mission briefing starts. Brimstone stands at the front with his map and his plan and his carefully organized sequence of events. He goes through it step by step. It is a good plan, genuinely good, well constructed, accounts for most variables, leaves appropriate margin for adjustment. You last 6 minutes before you raise your hand and suggest a completely different approach. Brimstone stops. He looks at you. He takes a breath. You recognize that breath. It is the breath of someone recalculating their expectations. Jet makes a sound into her hand that is technically a cough. Viper, standing against the wall with her arms crossed, does not move, but something in her posture shifts approximately 2 degrees, which from her is basically a standing ovation. The mission goes well. It goes well partly because of Brimstone's plan, and partly because you send a boombot through a side corridor that nobody planned for, and it resolves a problem that the plan had not accounted for. You mention this in the debrief. Calmly, collegially, with data. Brimstone tells you to write it up. You write it up. Notebook 26. Now let us talk about what you can actually do, because this is where the backyard experiments become something else entirely. Before we get into that, go check the options at the end of this video and drop your pick for the next character in the comments right now. Go. Come back. We will wait. Done? Good. Your boombot is the direct descendant of that first wheeled metal box. Every version improved. Every failure documented. The current model is fast, aggressive, and committed in a way that borders on personal. You send it into rooms before you enter them. It finds things. It chases things. When it catches things, it makes a very definitive point about the situation. You are proud of every single iteration that led to this one. Your blast pack is 2 inventions at once. A sticky explosive that adheres to any surface, and when detonated while you are holding it, a personal launch system that sends you through the air at speeds that should concern you significantly more than they do. You reach positions other people cannot reach. You arrive at angles nobody was watching. You are somewhere impossible before the enemy has finished processing that you moved. Sage watched you blast pack from street level to a rooftop during a training exercise, assess the entire situation, and drop back down before the opposition finished reacting. She said it was remarkable. You told her about sitting on rooftops as a kid watching the neighborhood below. She said that makes complete sense. You think she might be one of the few people who actually understands how you think. Your paint shells turn space into a problem. A well-placed pair locks down a corridor, a window, a choke point. The color is a bonus. The chaos is the point. And then there is your showstopper. You assemble it on the spot. You use it once. You leave it behind. The explosion it produces is not subtle. It is not trying to be subtle. It is a statement delivered at maximum volume to anyone and anything in the immediate area. The statement says you were here, you made this decision, and there was nothing in the universe that was going to stop it. Brimstone watched you fire it for the first time in a live operation and was quiet for several seconds afterward. Then he said good work in the voice of someone updating their internal models. Viper said nothing. From her, that is essentially a parade. Phoenix watched it and said finally, someone who gets it, which is the most correct thing he has said since joining the team. Breach watched it and laughed the way very large things laugh. Then he walked directly into the smoke and chaos to see what was left, which you respect enormously. Jet watched it and immediately asked if you could make one for her. You said no. She asked again. You said no again. She has asked 11 more times since then. The answer has not changed, though the persistence is genuinely impressive. The operations against Kingdom are not short. They are not clean. Kingdom has infrastructure and funding and radionite and the institutional confidence of an organization that has never been seriously inconvenienced. They have serious people with serious technology and a complete inability to build a threat model that includes you. That last part is your favorite part. The mission that changes things is in Sao Paulo, a Kingdom processing facility buried inside a converted warehouse in an industrial district. Your team is tasked with disabling a radionite extraction array before it goes online. If it goes online, it powers a grid that funds the next 12 months of Kingdom operations. You have a window, a small one. Brimstone's plan is good. He has the entry routes mapped. He has roles assigned. He has timing coordinated to the minute. You follow the plan for approximately 90 seconds. The problem is a secondary security door that was not on any of the facility schematics. It is sealed. It is thick. It is standing between you and the extraction array with absolute zero interest in moving. Brimstone is on comms asking for your status. Breach is on the other side of the facility, creating a significant distraction involving his arms and several load-bearing walls. Jet is somewhere above you, moving between ventilation shafts, silent as a draft. Sage is holding the entry point. You look at the door. You look at your equipment bag. You pull out a blast pack. You stick it to the center of the door. Brimstone's voice comes through the earpiece. He is asking what you are doing. He is asking you to confirm you are not about to do what it sounds like you are about to do. You tell him you are helping. You detonate the blast pack. The door does not open. The door, the frame, the section of wall around the door, and approximately 4 meters of the ceiling above it cease to exist in their previous configuration. The alarm system also stops working. You are not sure why. You do not ask questions. You walk through what used to be a doorway into the facility interior. The extraction array is right there. 12 seconds of work, and it is disabled. Brimstone is silent on the comms for a moment. Then he says, write it up. You say you will. Notebook 27. You helped. Technically, the fights keep coming. Different cities, different facilities, different versions of the same problem, which is that Kingdom keeps taking things that do not belong to them, and someone has to make that complicated for them. You are the someone, professionally, with documentation. Between missions, you build things. You always build things. The workbench in your quarters at the facility is covered in components and notebooks and half-finished devices that nobody else can identify. Phoenix asked once what a particular cylinder was. You told him. He immediately took 3 steps back and has not asked about anything on the workbench since. Breach asked once. You told him. He picked it up, looked at it from several angles, put it back, and said he wanted 2 of them. You told him they were not ready. He said he would wait. He is still waiting. You respect that about him. Jet has never asked about the workbench because Jet has already stolen several things off the workbench. You know this. She knows you know this. Neither of you has addressed it directly. This is the foundation of your friendship. The mural in Salvador is gone. Kingdom painted over it 14 months ago. But you remember every color. The orange and blue and red that had been there longer than you had been alive. Longer than Kingdom had been operating in that neighborhood. Longer than any fence or logo or piece of inoffensive landscaping. You remember it. And every boombot you send rolling, every blast pack you detonate, every showstopper you fire is a message from that corner of Salvador to every Kingdom boardroom that thought a coat of paint was the end of the conversation. It is not the end of the conversation. You are just getting started. You are Raze. Born in noise, raised in color, educated by every broken thing you ever made work again. The world handed you garbage, and you turned it into something that billion-dollar corporations spend $40 million trying to replicate. They still have not gotten it right. You have 17 notebooks full of reasons why.